This is an MJA Inc. Investigations warning. This MJA podcast is rated E for explicit. Some details of a case and language used on this podcast might be upsetting to some of our listeners. Listeners' discretion is advised. And for those who are still with us, kick back and enjoy the show. Welcome to our MJ podcast. This series, Deep into the Woods, episode 21, part 5, 8 Kentucky Unsolved Cold Cases. The NCIC statistics for missing people number over 600,000 a year. There are many missing children and adults that are quickly found alive and well. However, tens of thousands of individuals remain missing. In today's world, it has become an epidemic, and some cases don't even make it in the media. As a nation, we have to do a lot better to solve these missing person cold cases. They have vanished without a trace. One minute they are there, and the next moment they are gone. It's a family's worst nightmare is when one of their loved ones disappears without a trace. Please join us as we go deep into the woods to find answers for these missing person cold cases. Good evening. My name is Mark, and I will be your host for tonight's show. Joining me later will be our co-host, Olivia. Olivia and I will profile 8 unsolved cold cases from the state of Kentucky. We are coming to you from Morrisonville, New York. Welcome to Kentucky. Case 1. It was on April 3rd, 1961 is when 46-year-old George William Hawkins, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Newport, Kentucky. Case 2. It was on July 4th, 1974 is when 20-year-old Alice Faye Jefferson, a black female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Case 3. It was on December 14th, 1981 is when 31-year-old Edward Hale Tidwell, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Marion, Kentucky. Case 4. It was on January 25th, 1977 is when 24-year-old Melanie D. Flynn, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Lexington, Fayette, Kentucky. Case 5. It was on January 15th, 1994 is when 21-year-old Joel Mark Wells, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Hazard, Kentucky. Case 6. It was on March 3rd, 1993 is when 38-year-old Patricia Ann Calloway, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Hartford, Kentucky. Case 7. It was on June 24th, 1999 is when 44-year-old Walter Gregg Fowler, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Smith's Grove, Kentucky. Case 8. It was on December 22nd, 1994 is when 27-year-old Dawn Christine Haynes, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia will be on the line. Olivia and I will profile 8 unsolved cold cases from the state of Kentucky. Be back in a moment.
You are not real. The reality of an observable entity designated by the term everyday life stands a good chance of remaining hypothetical for many people. You are not real. Indeed, the most striking feature of the present group for research on everyday life is obviously not the fact that it has not yet discovered anything. You are not, but the fact that the very existence of everyday life has been disputed from its very inception. And increasingly so with each new session of this conference. You are not real. Most of the talks we have heard so far have been by people who are not at all convinced that everyday life exists. Not real, since they haven't encountered it anywhere. You are not real. A group for research on everyday life with this attitude is comparable in every way to an expedition in search of the Yeti. You are not real. You are not real, which might similarly come to the conclusion that its core was merely a popular hoax.
Welcome to our MJ podcast, this series, Deep into the Woods, episode 21, part 5, 8 Kentucky Unsolved Cold Cases. We have Olivia on the line tonight. How are you doing?
Doing good. It was a hot day, but I just stepped outside and it's getting chilly.
Oh, yeah, well, it's chilly here. And are you ready to dig into these unsolved cold cases?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Welcome to Kentucky. The Doe Network has 46 males and 39 females listed as being missing from the state of Kentucky. Case 1. Welcome to Newport, Kentucky. Missing male. It was on April 3rd, 1961 is when 46-year-old George William Hawkins, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Newport, Kentucky. Hawkins was a resident of Persimmons Grove, Kentucky in southern Campbell County. The 46-year-old Hawkins was a police officer and also ran a small general store. On the morning of April 3rd, 1961 is when Hawkins disappeared and he fixed his oldest daughter breakfast before seeing her off to work. The 46-year-old police officer Hawkins then left in his tan 1959 station wagon. Hawkins called home around 1 p.m. telling his family that he was stopped by his attorney's office on his way home. Nothing in his voice suggested that there was any problems. The Hawkins had met with a lawyer about Hawkins' upcoming Internal Revenue Service tax audit. As far as Hawkins' family knows, the attorney was the last man to see the 46-year-old police officer, George Hawkins. On April 7, 1961, Dayton, Ohio police found Hawkins' two-tone Plymouth station wagon parked at the river's edge with a half a tank of gas, and the key was still in the ignition. The only thing found inside the car was muddy water. The car appeared to have been rinsed out with muddy water and wiped down with a muddy rag. There is evidence that suggested that the 46-year-old police officer Hawkins' disappearance is related to the world of organized crime. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Kentucky State Police at 502-532-6363.
Case 2. Welcome to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Missing female. It was on July 4th, 1974, when 20-year-old Alice Faye Jefferson, black female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Fort Campbell, Kentucky. The 20-year-old Jefferson was a mother of 2 children and was an Army wife stationed at Fort Campbell in Kentucky. Jefferson's husband, Lee Andrew Jefferson, who was not the children's father, came home and said his wife, Alice Jefferson, was gone. On the day of the 20-year-old Jefferson's disappearance, no one picked the children up from school. They walked home and beat on the door for a long time with no answer. Then the stepfather, Lee Jefferson, opened the door. Lee Jefferson would not let the children into their bedroom. Alice Jefferson's car was still in the driveway and her clothes were still in the closet. Alice Jefferson's husband, Lee Jefferson, never filed a missing persons report for his missing wife. According to Lee Jefferson, the husband thought his wife had gone to Nashville as she had friends in the area. After a couple of days, Lee Jefferson packed some bags and loaded his stepchildren into the car and drove them to the grandparents' home in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Lee Jefferson left and never saw the kids again. When Alice Jefferson's parents tried to report her as missing, the Kentucky and Tennessee police would not take a report, saying it was not in their jurisdiction. The U.S. Army opened an investigation into the 20-year-old Jefferson's disappearance in 2013. They exhausted all leads in the case and are not actively investigating. Foul play is possible. Alice Jefferson has never been seen or heard from again. Jefferson's Social Security number has not been used since the time she disappeared. Foul play is possible. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the U.S. Army CID Special Agent Dara Tovar at 270-412-7881.
Case 3. Welcome to Marion, Kentucky. Missing male. It was on December 14th, 1981 is when 31-year-old Edward Hale Tidwell, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Marion, Kentucky. On the day the 31-year-old Tidwell disappeared, he told his wife that he was going to meet a man in Sturgis, Kentucky about a job. The man, who has never been identified. It's everyone's understanding that the unidentified man was a foreman in a river industry job in southern Illinois. Police think Tidwell went to meet this man at the man's Sturgis home. At around 8:50 p.m., the 31-year-old Tidwell left his residence driving a yellow 1974 Bel Air Chevrolet. No trace of Tidwell or his vehicle has ever surfaced. The 31-year-old Tidwell had worked in several river-related businesses on the water and on the shore. Tidwell had applied for unemployment benefits just days before he vanished. The 31-year-old Tidwell didn't have a prior record to indicate any legal troubles, and his family life appeared fine. Edward Hale Tidwell left behind 2 young girls and his wife. The Social Security Administration eventually declared Tidwell dead, and his family received benefits. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Kentucky State Police at 270-676-3313.
Case 4. Welcome to Lexington, Fayette, Kentucky. Missing female. It was on January 25th, 1977, when 24-year-old Melanie D. Flynn, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Lexington, Fayette, Kentucky. 24-year-old Flynn was a secretary at the Kentucky High School Athletic Association located in Lexington, Fayette, Kentucky. At around 5 p.m. on January 25th, 1977, Flynn was last seen when she left her office. 24-year-old Flynn never arrived home that night. Witnesses state they saw 21-year-old Flynn talking to someone in a blue van near a local intersection. Another witness had seen Flynn later that night in Nellie Kelly's, which at the time it was a Lexington, Kentucky restaurant. The 24-year-old Flynn was talking to a man with a pockmarked face and brown hair parted in the middle. On February 5th, 1977, Flynn's car was discovered abandoned in northern Lexington, Kentucky. 21-year-old Flynn, who was a secretary, was the subject of a highly publicized search after she disappeared. It was learned that the 24-year-old Flynn was working as an informant with the police at the time of her disappearance. Melanie D. Flynn agreed to introduce a detective to members of the drug culture to avoid her own arrest for possession of marijuana. 24-year-old Flynn took this undercover detective to parties and introduced him as her boyfriend. But the detective denies that they had a personal relationship. It was just part of the cover-up story, being undercover. The detective does not believe the undercover work is related to Flynn's disappearance. 21-year-old Flynn's family believes the detective is not being truthful about the nature of their relationship. Flynn's family says the detective was a friend of the family, and he and Melanie Flynn were dating. Melanie Flynn's family believes that she knew too much about the Lexington police drug trafficking. This came after an arrest of a former Lexington police officer on cocaine trafficking charges. At the time of the 24-year-old Flynn's disappearance, there was a scandal involving the Lexington Police Narcotics Squad. This case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call Lexington Fayette Police Department at 859-258-3600.
Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, we will profile 4 more unsolved cold cases from the state of Kentucky. Be back in a moment.
I've been searching in the dark Every corner of these woods is hollow. I can't see in the dark.
Welcome back to our MJ podcast, this series, Deep into the Woods, episode 21, part 5, 8 Kentucky Unsolved Cold Cases. Case 5. Welcome to Hazard, Kentucky. Missing male. It was on January 15th, 1994, is when 21-year-old Joel Mark Wells, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Hazard, Kentucky. It was at the Hazard Walmart in the Black Gold Shopping Center is when Mark Wells left a group of friends. The 21-year-old Wells left after an argument and walked to the Burger King restaurant around closing time. Wells banged on the doors of the restaurant. The police were called and they were there within a few minutes. Police circled the local businesses and never saw anything at all. It was extremely cold that night and too cold for anyone to be out walking. According to a witness, the 21-year-old Wells was distressed and seemed to be wanting help. Mark Wells was never seen or heard from again since January 15, 1994. Search dogs hit on a scent near the river behind City Hall, but nothing else. Police with family members and volunteers searched for days around the area where 21-year-old Wells was last seen and found nothing. 21-year-old Wells left behind 2 young sons. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Kentucky State Police, Post 13, Detective Clayton Stamper at 606-435-6069.
Case 6. Welcome to Hartford, Kentucky. Missing female. It was on March 3rd, 1993, when 38-year-old Patricia Ann Calloway, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Hartford, Kentucky. Patricia Calloway was a Hartford nursing home where she worked as a nursing assistant. The 38-year-old Calloway was last seen at work when her brother-in-law paid her a visit. It was reported that the 38-year-old Calloway was told that her estranged husband had filed for another marriage license in another county. 38-year-old Calloway went to her boss clearly upset and said she had to leave because of a family emergency. Patricia Ann Calloway left work early and has not been seen or heard from since. The 38-year-old Calloway's car was found later that afternoon on the side lot of the Hartford Community Center. Patricia Ann Calloway was reported missing on March 13, 1993. 2007, an Ohio County jury found Deborah A. Calloway guilty of helping her now-deceased husband kill Patricia Patsy Calloway in 1993. Deborah's husband, Vernon Calloway, killed Patsy Calloway. They were afraid the 38-year-old Calloway was going to tell law enforcement about a 1991 arson that was planned by Deborah and Vernon Calloway and Vernon's brother, Larry Calloway. The 38-year-old Patsy Calloway was Larry Calloway's ex-wife but still lived with him. It was Larry Calloway who told people that Patricia Ann Calloway would tell the police about the arson plan. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Kentucky State Police at 270-826-3312.
Case 7. Welcome to Smith's Grove, Kentucky. Missing male. It was on June 24th, 1999 is when 44-year-old Walter Greg Fowler, a white male, disappeared without a trace from Smith's Grove, Kentucky. On June 20th, 1999, the 44-year-old Fowler was reported missing by his wife, which was a Sunday. Deborah Fowler reported that her husband had left on a fishing trip and had not returned as expected. Deborah Fowler told police she saw her husband's boat in the water while driving on Kentucky 101 bridge. The wife stopped and tried to drag it to shore when a work crew with the county jail was passing by and helped her bring it in. The Warren County Sheriff's Office initially investigated the disappearance of the 44-year-old Fowler as a missing persons case, but the case was upgraded to a homicide investigation when an extensive search of the Barren River and surrounding banks proved fruitless. There were other details surrounding 44-year-old Fowler's disappearance that led investigators to believe that more than one person may have been involved in the disappearance of Fowler. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Warren County Sheriff's Office Detective Timothy Robinson at 270-842-1633.
Case 8. Welcome to Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Missing female. It was on December 22nd, 1994, when 27-year-old Dawn Christine Haynes, a white female, disappeared and vanished without a trace from Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Dawn Haynes was last seen at her Elizabethtown home she shared with her enlisted husband and their 2 children. The 27-year-old Haynes vanished from her home. No one had heard from Dawn Haynes by December 31st, 1994. The family contacted the sheriff's office. After Dawn Haynes' grandparents reported his disappearance, the police questioned Dawn's husband. The husband told police and others that his wife Dawn unexpectedly left her home and the rocky marriage late on a winter night. The husband claimed that he woke up in the middle of the night or early in the morning and saw his wife Dawn getting her things together. Then he claimed he watched as Dawn walked out of the house and got into a car with a man and a woman. 27-year-old Dawn Haynes had taken out an emergency protective order in April of 1994, and the couple divorced soon after. But they were married in October of 1994. The last known contact anyone has had with 27-year-old Dawn Haynes was at around 11 p.m. on December 22nd, 1994, when Haynes talked to a friend. Many people believe that 27-year-old Dawn Haynes is a victim of foul play. The case remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Hardin County Sheriff's Department at 270-765-5133.
Olivia, do you have anything you would like to add to these cases?
I want to go back to the one in the beginning. The woman was an officer in the Army, and her husband, the husband? He said not to go into the one room. I question that. He told the kids not to go into a bedroom or something.
Right.
I just found that kind of suspicious. Was she in there?
Yeah, and like I say, he was the stepfather of the children. He dropped up the children at her parents, their grandparents, and he never seen them again. And so that's another red flag.
Maybe that she was in that room and he took care of her after he dropped the children off. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, more than likely. That's the scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, she may have already been deceased, and that's why he didn't want them going in there.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting cases tonight.
Yeah. I found it interesting that I think it was that 1961 case where that guy was a police officer, or 61 or 63, I can't remember. But I just find that kind of odd that after all these years since he was a police officer, that wasn't solved, because there's not many homicides on police officers that go unsolved. And
yeah, that's a little odd too.
Yeah. Okay, I have a quote for you all. Hope, hold on, the pain ends. Author unknown. I want to thank Olivia for being on the show tonight. A special thanks to our viewers and listeners for tuning in, for you all have been so kind. Always remember, folks, that if you ever get bored with nothing to do, well, take a walk deep into the woods. You might be surprised at what you might find. That's the end of our MJ podcast, this series, Deep into the Woods. This has been episode 21, part 5, 8 Kentucky Unsolved Cold Cases. We say to all of you, good night from Morrisonville, New York, located in the Adirondack Mountains.
And I'm haunted in a dream. I don't know how long I've been asleep. I gotta wake up. Oh, but the cycle it just repeats. 'Cause I'm haunted in a dream. Letting go. And I'm haunted in a dream. I don't know how long I've been asleep. I gotta wake up. But the cycle it just repeats. 'Cause I'm haunted in a dream. I don't know how long. I don't know how long.